Hello everyone! Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to give a quick shout out to a fantastic podcast that you need to be listening to right now, as part of a podcast trailer exchange that me and him are having. Tallyho is a fantastic podcast that highlights more or less the worst stuff to ever come out on television. It's honestly a podcast that I have to listen to every single time there's a new episode that drops. I mean, it's edited wonderfully, the subject matter is incredible, the host does a great job really entertaining the folks. You know what? I need to stop blabbering about it. How about I just let the host tell you himself?
How to describe Tallyho in 30 seconds? When I was alive, I stole cable. The electric shock from the cable box killed me. Now I'm stuck in hell reviewing the worst and the dumbest TV shows and moments of all time. And I'm gonna keep reviewing those shows until I find the one program that checks off all of Dante's 9 circles of hell.
Limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy, violence, fraud, treachery.
Sounds easy, but it's not. Tallyho, where TV meets torture. Look for us wherever you stream podcasts, and remember,
If it's not in Tallyho, it's not worth a damn.
And welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I'm your host, Nathan Ragland. Sorry for more or less disappearing for a couple weeks. Work had been getting a little hectic, and I just need a few weeks to breathe. But we are back, and we are better than ever. And I say for this week's episode, grab your goggles and top hat, and let's prepare for quite the adventure. Today's guests are the creative team at SkullHare Studios, Shou Tuzi and Surname, the team that is behind the upcoming surreal steampunk fantasy adventure Tallyho. This was honestly a very chaotic episode. I mean that in the best way possible. This was a very fun chat about something that these two guests are both very passionate about, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear it. But I will go ahead and give you guys a heads up. There's a point, especially whenever we're talking about the different characters of the show, to where the files got corrupted or something. I don't know what it was. I tried working around it. I had my homie Too Much Sasha try to work on it, but there seemed to be nothing that we could do, and I couldn't necessarily edit around it. So there might be a point to where the audio gets a little weird and the visuals get a little weird. But don't worry. It's still an incredible and fantastic interview that I know you guys are going to enjoy. If you enjoy my guests, make sure you support them in the links down in the description below. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. I see that stuff and I absolutely love it. If you want to go a little bit further with that support, maybe you should consider getting some of the fantastic merch that you can get at pmap.creator-spring.com. We have some outstanding designs done by some amazing artists and former guests of the podcast like Roya Shahidi and Aiden, aka Drags, and I sincerely think you guys would look fantastic in it today. And look, if all you want is just a cool place to where you can talk about some of the guests that have been on this podcast or some of the art that either they have made or you've made, maybe you should consider joining our Discord server, the Artist Sanctuary. We've already developed an incredible community there, and we think you would be a fantastic addition to help this art world grow. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. Alright, Jim, before we get this show on the road, I want to start with more or less the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you both get to go to a deserted island on your own accords. It is just you, along with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe. Get to truly enjoy yourselves for a little bit. With accommodations, you're not stranded. Trust me, I wouldn't do that to you guys. To help with whatever vibe you want on this island, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help with whatever mind space you want on this island. If given this opportunity, what would that one piece be?
Let's see.
Why is this difficult? But the first thing that came to my mind was a cassette player, because I actually do have one right now.
Okay.
Oh.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, to be fair, I don't know about you, but for me, cassette player takes me back to a little bit of a nostalgia mind space more than anything else, like enjoying those growing up or whatnot. I don't know if it's the same for you, but was it like, what was that like the first thing that come to mind for you?
Me? Honestly, even though like I'm pretty young, I just really, really like retro or old things. I don't know why. I like vintages and stuff. I literally collect vintages.
Okay.
One of those hats over there is a vintage.
Nice.
And obviously steampunk and other things. So I like just old-fashioned things with like a sense of like elegance or antiquity, like stuff with a little history to it. That's just my kind of style. So typically the type of like aesthetics I like are like Art Deco, Art Nouveau, like that kind of like style, or like Chinese art, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Nice. I mean, that's fair. It's a good aesthetic to more or less like lean towards more than anything else. Is there a particular cassette player that would be like the first one you played, or like the go-to
Hold
one?
on. 2 seconds. I am grabbing it right now.
Oh, and then hiding the camera too. Audio listeners love you to death.
And then,
So there's a reason why for this one, but my grandfather gave it to me.
Oh,
recently.
Okay.
It's a what? It is the Walkman, the genuine article.
It's the Walkman.
Oh, okay.
And
fair
it's literally, it's like almost mint condition, and I think it's hilarious that he kept it in such mint condition, because here's the thing, he's deaf.
The comedy writes itself. The comedy writes itself right there.
Yeah, I don't write my own story at this point. My life is just a dramedy. I don't know how I got here. Where am I? Who am I? I don't know.
I think you answered the question. Why was it kept in mint condition?
Yeah, I wonder why. He lost his hearing.
While that was cool, and I do appreciate you showing that, when I met cassette, I mean, like, what's the first thing you're playing on that Walkman?
Oh, definitely. That's a difficult question, but honestly, I'm kind of cheesy, so Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra.
Ooh.
It's a good. That's a good one. I mean, if nothing else, like the vibe that gives off, especially when you're just relaxing or whatnot, like that's good mentality more than anything else.
ELO will always be one of my favorite bands, just in general. I've listened to, several of their albums. Like, what was it? I think Fire on High, New World Record. What was the one that Mr. Blue Sky was on? I forget. But Out of the Blue, I think it is.
Okay.
And El Dorado, I actually have on vinyl.
Nice.
El Dorado. Wait, you have vinyl too?
I do. I just haven't played it in forever.
Oh, do you not have a vinyl player, or do you?
No, I do. I just haven't used it in forever.
Bro.
I was gonna say, hey, I also have vinyl over there.
I also have vinyl over down there, and a vinyl player out there.
There you go. There we go.
It's purple, like my aesthetic.
Hey.
Yeah. I think mine is a turntable that has the flag of Mexico on it for some reason. I don't really mind. It works.
You know what? Hey, that's all you can ask for a turntable.
That's the dogs. So it's what piece of media or what media player is that? Both.
Like media,
or a piece of art.
Yeah, or a piece of art. But yeah, like whatever you consider media or art that's in the realm, whatever you want to bring with you.
Just the one thing.
Just the one thing.
The problem is asking me to commit to one thing that I want. Mm-hmm. I end up vacillating between multiple things that I like, and I'll think it's a really good idea in like in the one time, and then like within a week, I'm like, I hate this. Why did I do this?
I mean,
No.
you're not on this island forever. This is just a nice little quick vacation. So maybe all you need is a week.
Quick vacation. Nice quick vacation. In that case, I would take my GameCube.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That's a good choice. Is that the system you
I'll take
more or
my
less grew
GameCube.
up with?
Obviously, stuff to play on that. There's a smattering of stuff, all of which are mismatched cases because I was a dumb child and they
Oh
were
my
also
God.
hand-me-downs from my cousin.
No, I hate that. Actually, no.
No, not all of them were, because there were a bunch of them that were like games that like only my cousin played, and he misplaced the discs for them. So it's like, if I can't find wherever the disc goes, it's like, here, it goes in this Madden case, or this BMX case, or whatever. Like,
Oh, the
That does not
chaos.
make it better.
I hate it too, because I'm like, wait, that's not the thing. Where is it? But I didn't know where else to put them, honestly.
Jesus. Goodness.
Yeah. Soul Calibur 2 bangs on GameCube, though.
Just so you know, this was the worst person to ask. Like, this was the worst question to ask, like, two incredibly neurodivergent people. Why?
It's the
It's like you're
icebreaker question.
expecting us to die.
It's the icebreaker question of the podcast. It's the break.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know, but it gets us to talk about stuff, and also, yeah, Soul Calibur 2 bangs on the GameCube.
You know what? Fair
Absolutely. 100%.
Valid. But nevertheless, a GameCube and a cassette player. That's your guys' answer. You're locking that in.
Yes.
Then if
Yeah.
that's the case, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You can support the podcast on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/PMAP for as low as $1 a month. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guests. From SkullHare
Hi.
Studios, they are the duo leading the charge for several indie animated projects, most notably Tallyho, a surreal steampunk fantasy adventure. Welcome to the podcast, Shou Tuzi and Jim Surname.
Hi, what's up? Also, you better follow Postmodern Art Podcast or I will come find you and I will do it for you. Anyways. Hi. We are part of SkullHare Studios. I am mostly kind of like the spokesman of most of the things. So, hello. I also stream on Twitch. Most of our socials are listed under SkullHare Studios, or on Twitter, it is SkullHare Hub, PP Pandect, and the SkullHare for various projects, my personal Twitter, and stream stuff. So if you're interested in that, please check it out. And I also do have a Ko-fi if you do want to help make this project come to life a little faster.
Well, there you go. How are you both doing today?
Yes.
I agree. I agree. Well, nevertheless, I do appreciate you both taking the time to be here today. Show, whenever you first reached out to me, it was wonderful to hear from you and to really divulge into what you guys are producing or whatnot. Seeing what you guys are able to have your hands in and really start producing, like, it had me excited to have you guys on the podcast at a certain point. So here we are. And I know I'm certainly excited for it. But before we really divulge into the stuff you guys are creating right now, I want to go back just a little bit, if I may, and know more or less the origin story of SkullHare, or at least the people behind it. What got you both interested in art and animation in the first place?
Okay, for me, it has always been a lifelong thing. Personally, for me, I actually started having that interest when I was in middle school. And around 16, I wanted to create the brand SkullHare Studios. And the reason why I chose that username is, one, skulls, I like very macabre things. But the other part is hair is actually because it's inspired by Tortoise and the Hare.
Okay.
And all my life, I was kind of the outcast and misfit, and I was called the Hare by many of my family members. So I was basically treated like a spoiled, arrogant kind of prick or whatever the heck. I know, really funny. Like, oh, you're like lazy, you're wasting your talents and stuff like that. But I'm like, I am very convinced I'm like learning disabled or something. I'm still getting that tested, but I was a gifted kid too, and that caused a lot of issues with me. Um,
Mm,
so a lot of so like when I kind of got out of that system and a lot of stuff happened, I ended up becoming like really clinically depressed, and instead of like realizing that, my family, mostly my extended family and stuff like that, were like, "Oh, you're just being lazy and you don't apply yourself. You are being the hare from the tortoise
mm,
and the hare. You should be more like the tortoise. You should be calm. You should be collected. You should be more working harder, you know?" Like basically because like the moral of the tortoise and the hare in a way is that hard work would be talent if talent doesn't work hard, that kind of thing. But
right, right.
it's a whatever mentality. Honestly, I started art out of spite anyways. But
Not the first time I've heard that on this podcast, believe it or not. Someone starting art because of spite.
yeah, no, my dad was literally like, if you don't have the talent to do something, you should just quit. And I was like, okay. And I didn't.
Thank God you didn't
But
quit.
so, no. And then so when I basically started kind of like rolling on the art journey and stuff like that, there were a lot of speed bumps where I was very disinterested easily in things. But by the time I was 18, 19, I started appreciating all forms of art, including like cooking, music,
Hmm.
just animation, everything. And I mean, absolutely everything. I see beauty absolutely everywhere and everything, crafts, uh, art, architecture, everything. So when that started, like when I started kind of changing my mentality towards that, it's started making me think about how I wanted to boost other people who are like me and have very, very strange and unique writing styles, because I see there are a lot of trends out there and there are a lot of things that people tend to follow because that's just human nature, right? And for me, no matter what I created, even if people tell me it's very creative or something, since I just have such a different view on things, it was just never good enough, or it just didn't fit people's expectations of me or people's like what they wanted,
Right.
essentially. So it's kind of in a way my goal to create some of the weirdest, most absolutely mind-bending stories out there, because like I just really really like creating stuff that makes people think but also makes people not feel alone, because as somebody who has struggled a lot with different types of trauma and whatnot, I would like to bring more attention to mental illness and uh, different types of upbringings that aren't just watered down and diluted with some happy go lucky mentality, because sometimes life isn't like that, it's bittersweet. It's actually why I like a lot of French indie animation films and stuff, because they have a much more bittersweet kind of approach.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially what they got over there with the stuff that they like to produce, and honestly hearing your story and hearing the stuff that you've had to go through and seeing that you're still wanting to persevere and have that voice like be on full blast or whatnot. I already had a lot of respect for you. Like that just brings my respect to a whole different level. And we
Thank you.
just got this interview started too. That's impressive more than anything else.
Thank you. But yeah, so there's a little bit more to it too. But the reason why I started Tallyho and stuff like that is because of a variety of things. But one of the reasons why I started with a steampunk project first is because one, there is actually not many steampunk animated media, especially Western media. Two, it's a niche. So I was like, you know what? My brain is wired to be hipster. I don't know why. Don't ask. I don't know either. I'm just like, see popular thing? Okay, I'll go the other direction. And that's
Yep,
just how my
fair
brain's always been.
Fair
So
enough.
I see steampunk and stuff like that. And when I first attended a steampunk convention as a volunteer, it was Key City Steampunk, by the way. But I saw that there was a lot of an older crowd there. And I was like, huh, I'm I was like literally one of the youngest, if not the youngest person there, and I was like, oh shit. Like, okay. So I was like, that kind of solidified my decision to kind of bring steampunk into a different medium instead of just books, because steampunk has this weird reputation of like being super hard to produce and draw and whatnot. And I'm sitting here like looking at that and I'm like, 2003 Clone Wars was a thing.
Yeah.
You know the detail that was put in that? Like, I think it's just it comes down to marketing, and it comes down to how each story was written and stuff like that. And cyberpunk has much more of a history than steampunk, since steampunk was technically a spawn off of that. But steampunk in general is really niche, and I wanted to bring it to a new medium, aka animation and stuff, to bring more attention, to bring more viewers, and to bring a new generation into this genre and to learn about it too, because it's not really digital at all. It's mostly like analog stuff or in person. And of course, we just need more things that people can get invested into and be like, oh, hey, because why is the entire steampunk community literally on Facebook? I can't, dude. Like, I can't. I'm just like, please, God, expand outwards. So that's basically it. It's like, I'm just tired of seeing the same old things. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make the most out of indie and make the most unmarketable thing ever, because screw you, every single big network out there who says, hey, I can make this raunchy adult show that is totally gonna make a ton of cash. And I'm like, no, please don't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm like, no, please don't. And then more news about like, Netflix cutting shows, and then everything else going downhill. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make this the most undeniably like punk thing I can. So that's also the reason why I chose a lot of the genres that we did choose.
Oh, there you go. Also, I'm just gonna say, are you looking at my notes? Because like that was good. That was something the steampunk whole entire discussion was something I was gonna eventually touch upon. This.
I have been known to be psychic, though.
I was gonna say,
I'm not joking about that. This is true.
Jesus, I was gonna say, like,
no,
I know you're joking.
I don't even know if I'd have anything to say. I just feel silly trying to follow that up.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I know you were joking earlier, but are you seriously in the walls? Like, no.
You'll never know, and you'll never find out if you know what's good for you.
Duly noted. But Jim, now for you.
For me.
Yes, your origin story. What got you interested in art and animation as well?
Well, I don't remember if I can pinpoint down like a specific time where I actually like got into it. Mm-hmm. But I remember like what I would do is it was always a hobby for me, and it always has been, and it's kind of wrecked my wrist by using the same form that I used to write, that I used to draw, which is something that no, don't ever do that. Don't ever do that.
It's horrific. It's legitimately horrific. I've seen it. I don't know how. Like,
you need like it is. No, it is not like that. It is not. It is not like that. I'll need to provide like a thing, but it's the same form that I use for like a pen, and it's just like, oh god, my fucking wrist is red. But I digress. What I would do a lot of the time is I would use it like it was the sort of stuff where I'd get like I was always drawing on something.
Okay.
Like it would be placemats, loose pieces of paper, stuff like that. I'd ask for something and I'd get a ballpoint pen and I'd just draw whatever I wanted to draw on that, and I had done that for like years on years on years on years. And I have still just kind of been doing this for fun, for a hobby. And what initially got me into art was, I don't know, I just liked having these characters and making up these things in my mind. And because of the way that my attention span works, that it doesn't, I would kind of vacillate between all these different things. And what ended up happening was like, I was like, oh yeah, I'll get a DeviantArt. I'll get I'll get a DeviantArt. I'll get this stuff, which I haven't. I don't think I've actually touched my DeviantArt in earnest in probably like 3 or 4 years. Not even to like check messages.
It was actually 3 years.
Yeah, no.
Actually 3 years.
Yeah, like, and it was actually how I ended up meeting them was through an OCT. So an OCT, an original character tournament, you draw your own characters and you put them against other people's original characters, and they put it in like a bracket tournament where whoever does, it's usually comics, whoever does the best comics / animation ends up winning this round and going to the next round.
Okay.
There are some cases where it's not elimination based, and they just will progress you, and they'll just allow you to progress your whole arc. But that sense of being in a bracket tournament means it kind of like pushes you. You've got to make your art, your story, the best that it can possibly do, the best that it can possibly be, so that you can get to the end. I also figured out it's really fucking hard, and I never got past round 1.
If you see the expression on my face right now, please don't ever try to make your piece of work the best it can ever be, because you will suffer a lot from paralysis. Like
you just have
paralysis.
you just have to be good enough.
You just have to do it. You just have
to be good enough. Like, for a lot of people, it is just the dedication. Like, especially in certain tournaments, it was just being able to do stuff consistently was what got people to win. Like, yeah, there's fidelity, there's other stuff, but consistency was the main thing. And it's very hard to do, especially when I'm juggling school and all this other stuff. And that kind of fell through. But what it got out of it was getting this huge like group of people that I got to talk to, and like dynamics have changed over the past few years, and we've gotten to like now where the two of us are like spearheading this sort of thing here. They originally started it, and I kind of got fucking dragged by the neck with like a shepherd's crook, like off stage, kind of, the thing where it's just like, no, you get here, exit stage left.
I just see this hedgehog, and I was like, yes, mine now, and I took it. Yeah, the funny thing about that too is about OCTs. Fun fact, but a lot of people used to do OCTs, like some of the more like well-known people, like Zurel, Vivzy Pop. But like, yeah, no, they've done OCTs and stuff before to kind of like freshen up their story skills and stuff like that, and it can be a great learning curve. Just don't let it fuel your ego, because I guarantee you that shit is going to crash once you lose.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, no, because it's like, and this is not to speak ill of any of the actual like famous people who have gotten into OCTs, because I think in a lot of cases they don't necessarily even try to cultivate it. But when you have people who have like such a well-known body of work, who have all this other stuff, like Zurel and whatever, who come into an OCT, you basically have people who want to come in solely to see him and to see him succeed. And like,
yeah.
And it gets very daunting for everyone else. And I can't even imagine it'd be like, I'm sure he has fun with it, but it's also kind of like, he understands more than anyone, like, what that kind of like him and I think unknown person would like know what kind of like following that cultivates. And at least it's gotten him enough attention to get like Monkey Wrench off the ground, which fucking good for him, honestly. That's fantastic stuff.
Monkey Wrench good.
But
yeah,
good.
no, like, it's just, again, so I got most of my start of telling stories through comics and stuff like that. Meeting a lot of the people in that community honestly boosted like my skills more than I ever could.
Okay.
And on my own. And honestly, the funny thing is, a lot of those people that I still have as close friends and whatnot pulled onto my team.
Yes.
I think they have really, really good potential, and I genuinely believe in them, but it's because we're all so different from the expectations of other people, and everyone has their inherent bias. This is never a bad thing. But people have their biases, and unfortunately we just don't fit that criteria, so oftentimes we're just left to the wayside and our stories are never really given the opportunity to really lift off the ground, especially like with tournaments and stuff like that. There is a bias towards actions, like towards stories that can grip your attention very, very quickly, because obviously you need to build suspense, you need to build this, you need to do that, hooking your readers. But a lot of us don't write like that. I know I don't write like that. I write very, very like mellow build, and then screw you, goodbye.
It's like I remember, I don't want to go and like say, well, I think I'm most like this artist, or I think whatever, but like I remember like being told it was stuff like, well, you have a very naturalistic kind of way of doing dialogue. It's like, it kind of feels very Tarantino in the way that you do this and the other thing. And I am never going to compare myself to Tarantino. I'm going to use someone else's word. And at this stage, like, I hope that was just his frame of reference, because I don't know what he was thinking. Anyway, that whole thing is just, I like doing naturalism, realism, not slavish realism to the extent of like, because I will say this, I will always say this, what people call realistic, it very clearly shows the kind of things that they want to focus on. When people say realism, they interpret their own kind of realism a lot of the time. Like, unless you have people who are like going through stuff and like being very meticulous about historical context and stuff like that, when I hear people say realistic, there's a part of me that kind of goes like, what is realistic? What thing are you trying to make realistic? Because oftentimes, like, when you have stuff, it's like you have to be, where when people say it's like, this is a realistic fantasy setting, they're hyper focusing on the idea that women didn't have the important jobs or some stuff like that. Like, it is really telling what someone thinks when they say realistic. So I kind of shy away from the idea of like using the term realism.
I have so much to say on that too, because holy crap, people are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do realistic fantasy. Where are all the disabled people?
Yeah, there you go.
It seems like you're not thinking about something.
It's like,
it's just like, it's not realistic if you have certain other ethnicities in there, and I'm like.
Also, realistic and fantasy is just very funny to me, because it's like, when it's like you have made the entire thing from the ground up, you are choosing what is and isn't plausible, and you decide to like include or omit certain things based on different admissions. So when I think realism, when I think more naturalism, I think more plausibility. When I think of that, I think of like, what would an average person be doing? What would their life be like? What would just day-to-day life kind of exist? How can you, I think probably the thing that this might come up later, one of the things that kind of motivated me about Tallyho is, how do I take something that is fundamentally very magical, very fantastical, very weird and surreal, and make it boring and mundane? How can you take something that's really out there and believe that people could actually live in that world? And the answer is, you give it mundanity. It's like, yeah, there's these magic crystals that can power your home, but it's like, do you sit here and wonder, wow, the marvels of electricity? Like, no, you have the thing, you plug your toaster in, whether it's the power plant, whether it's the power plant in the next town over, or it's from a magic rock, who cares? It's electricity. It makes your thing work. You don't care about how it works most of the time.
And pretty much, like, ultimately, our motto when it comes to making Tallyho in general is literally, I just had it on the tip of my tongue and now I lost it. Crud. Making the fantastical mundane. That's literally what it is.
Okay.
So, And also, by the way, fun fact, magical realism is actually a genre, so it is totally different. Not what we're doing. Very different thing. But, yep.
There we go. Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, wow. Major brain
That's
fart
okay.
right there happened.
That's all
Very
right.
good.
Okay, that's it. No, I appreciate like the amount of like thought, love, and attention you guys are giving to like this topic and to these projects already. Like, especially considering the fact that you guys are two of the people behind, as we illustrated before, SkullHare Studios. Now, from what I can do my research show, this was initially like just your like name for the independent, studio or whatnot. Like, what made you want to like? I'm sorry. It is raining hard out there, and I just got distracted by that. What the fuck?
Good dang.
It's just like I was talking, and I just heard a whoosh. I'm like, what the fuck? Took me off my game.
Gads! The weather out there is quite scary.
Anyways, back to what I was gonna say. No, it's one of those, like, so it leads to obviously SkullHare Studios. Now, Show, if I remember correctly, based on my research, this was initially your like name for the studio or whatnot. Like, I know you kind of illustrate it with the skull hair thing or whatnot, but what ultimately made you want to like name it that and create like your own independent studio, or at least go forth with this venture?
Spite.
Spite.
Anyways.
Okay, good start.
Yeah, no,
No,
it
okay.
is Spite.
Serious is yes, but serious answer, more in-depth answer, before anyone thinks I'm an asshole. A multitude of reasons. Once again, this little dude is to literally spit in the faces of everyone who has ever called me a hare. So I literally made the symbol of calling me an idiot my face, and they will have to stare at it when it is out there. Anyways, and the other thing is, again, I always have been interested in business and other kinds of stuff. I've always wanted to create my own brand in general. That has always just been a thing with me. I like money. Who doesn't like money in this day and age? Let's be real. At this point, just don't have shady business practices.
I was going to say, yeah, who doesn't like money here and there? By the way, you should check out the merch shop at pmap.creator-spring.com.
Do it, or I'll get you. But anyway, yeah. I just like money, but also genuinely it is to bring stories that I think are worth uplifting and kind of like very unusual or surreal stories up to the forefront. Like specifically, I actually labeled Tallyho as new weird, which is a really, really interesting genre, by the way. Notable examples in that is Perdido Street Station by China Mieville.
Okay.
But yeah, so basically, I just really, really like strange, weird things, or like things that are like like above and beyond to test the limits of like what we can do, of what we can write, of what really elevates like philosophical thinking and stuff like that too. One of my favorite games is Night in the Woods, and one of my other favorite games is Carry On, because Carry On is just really, really interesting when it comes to like its mechanics and other things. But Night in the Woods creates a lot of this soulful, comforting feeling to me that's like makes me feel like I'm not alone in suffering my conditions and stuff like that. So basically, I just like storytelling, and I just want to create something that is for unfiltered storytellers like myself, obviously with limitations.
Right.
But
right.
basically, I really detest how a lot of popular networks and stuff like that censor storytelling. Like they censor queer topics, they censor like what isn't marketable. Cultural topics too, like obviously there's a big disparity with people of color and stuff like that because so it's just a lot of that is I want to create stories that can comfort the people who really need it and help uplift other storytellers that are like-minded like myself or very different from myself and can bring something very unique and interesting to the table that no other network would ever want.
Right, right. I mean, in a way, I find it almost kind of like a nice little full circle moment, you know, considering the fact that you were initially called, you know, skull hair, or at least hair, because of, you know, lazy and, you know, kind of self-centered, doing your own thing. But yet here you are, not only taking that, embracing it and doing your own thing, but also trying your best to also elevate other voices as well, and really like push forward for something incredible. That I'd say it's almost poetic justice at this point. So
Literally all my friends can attest to this, but my passion and ambition is very infectious, and they have all described me as lighting their torches to basically get hype for their own things and just like go for it. So
there you go. There you go. Jim, is that why you were more or less dragged into the SkullHare Studios thing? Just the inspiration that show exuded?
Yeah, it was like, well, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not going to make them out to be any kind of villain or anything, but it was originally like I do vacillate a lot, and like getting me to sort of pin down on one thing is exceptionally hard, as they will tell you. But the what ended up happening is like you're talking about it, and like they were talking about it, and I got put into it because it was like, you know, they'd like talking to me about their different projects and stuff like that. And there were a bunch of other projects that they had talked to me about prior, none of which I'm really going to talk about here because, like, if those ever end up actually becoming an idea someday, I wouldn't want to play my hand on that just yet. But like, for me, like there are some of that for me too, but it was for me, it was, I kind of got like thrown in when they got really enthusiastic about this. Like, I want to do this Tallyho stuff. I want to do steampunk. I want to do all this other stuff. And like, I want to do steampunk. I want to do all this stuff because steampunk
gotta go. Mom says I can't hang out with you anymore.
like Tallyho was like, steampunk was something that I had kind of like gotten, I guess, not turned off of, but like when they talk about like there is not much of a prevalence of steampunk media, like there is an even like smaller window of steampunk media that feels like it visually, thematically kind of like pushes the envelope. Right. Like, people will rope any like Victorian alternate fantasy into steampunk, and so it's like Professor Layton and all this other stuff. Like Professor Layton. Yeah.
Professor Layton's about to like really be steampunk, buddy. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's now, but it's also stuff like that, and it's just like anything that has brass and cogs and gears and the cool goggles and the top hats, and it just felt like, you know, it felt like brass and gears and goggles on top of a top hat with a leather corset, and science and like exploring the world and all this other stuff. And there's steampunk kind of got roped into a lot of cultural shit, which is about like, you know, like steampunk kind of got roped into like a lot of those old like pulp fantasy, like, you know, explorers going out and seeing and going out and visiting like exotic lands and all that other stuff, and all the thematic baggage, I guess we'll say, that comes with that. And like putting the punk back in steampunk was something that like Shou wanted to do. I wanted to make something which I always was more of a diesel punk guy myself. Ask me about a lot of the thematic baggage behind diesel punk. I will. But the I wanted to make something that kind of like not only kind of tied into the history of the time, like some of it's more anachronistic, obviously, because it's fantasy, but for me, I wanted to make steampunk that felt visually more interesting. I always have noticed it's like it's the same color palette, it's the same visual style, it's the same like like always autumn colors with a lot of brass and stuff like that. It's like I wanted to introduce more colors. I wanted to introduce more like technological variation. I wanted to do all this other stuff. I wanted to make it stand out. Which
is actually really interesting because steampunk has a lot of color and variety, especially in the cosplay scene. Right. There are so many pictures I took during last year's convention and the year before where like I've seen so many beautiful cosplays and stuff that had like bright greens, bright like just bright colors, neons against blacks, that kind of thing, where it almost leaned almost into a cyberpunky kind of thing, but it's still very clearly neo-Victorian, that kind of deal. So it's like, it's just really interesting to see that all the artwork that I ever see is brown.
Brown, orange, maybe a bit of gold or brass.
Yep.
That's what I said, brown.
Yep, brown.
Brown, like, that's why I said autumn tones. It's just like...
So brown.
I mean, technically brown is a type of orange, so...
Yeah. Burnt umber. God, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
If I hear that word one more time, I think I might implode. I'm in art school, buddy.
I know. I took this fucking... I took figure drawing class and I took all this other ones. It's like, it's not brown. You have to be very specific. It is burnt umber or burnt sienna.
I am going to fucking die here.
Burnt down the school building. I mean...
Anyway, speaking of brown and brass and stuff, the literal back of these tarot cards are brown and brass. Like, okay.
Not that I don't mind, like, just having, like, brass and gold, or gold kind of, like, stand out on, like, darker, more muted colors. But, like, when that is the only, like, thing that you kind of see in the palette, in the aesthetic, like, we not only want to bring steampunk into... I guess it's more of a youthful thing now. Like, with them, like, it's like, they're steampunk. They really like steampunk. All the people that are, like, into steampunk, like, there aren't a lot of people that are, like, in their 20s or in their teens and stuff like that. You don't have much of a scene for that. People that are in it are at least in their 30s. And not only that, the kind of, like...
actually, not even 30s. 40s.
At least. There probably were at least a couple. But that's, like, the floor. Mm-hmm. That is the floor that you find usually. It's not 20s, it's not teens, it's like 30s and above. Mm-hmm. And like the kind of crowd that you get there aren't like, I'm not saying we're trying to be hip and cool, but it's like there's a fundamental change in media, in like presentation, because a lot of the people that they have talked about, like the people that they went to go see, one, they're on Facebook. The other thing is that they're usually not digital artists.
I'm actually probably one of the only people.
Yeah, one of the only people who is like a digital artist and stuff like that. All the other people that are in like the steampunk scene, they're craftsmen, they're woodworkers, they're leather workers, they're like painters and metal workers and like garment makers and people who do crafts. They're more crafts minded kind of thing, which is this is not at all like an indictment of that. I love that. I love the kind of like stuff that they come up with, but there is a disconnect, and it is still incredibly niche and insular. And what kind of gets out of that space, what gets out of that incredibly niche space, is again the sort of the stereotypical ones where everything's in autumn colors and everything has like big steam pipes.
Look how many of these tarot cards are brown. Brown.
Look how many of them have like all this other stuff. Like
brown.
Yeah.
Brown.
Jesus.
This one's actually purple.
There you go.
But it was like introducing like more vivid, saturated colors, introducing like different styles of dress and all that other stuff, which a lot of coats, I realize. We draw a lot of coats, but coats are cool. Who cares?
You did that. he was the one who put like a bunch of coats on half of these characters. I was like, okay, cool.
I mean, there were a lot of people that were wearing coats and stuff like that. We could get like more people wearing shirts and stuff like that.
It's Upper British England area. I don't know. Ringford isn't even in Britain, but whatever.
It's Britain adjacent. It's English adjacent.
It's cold. It's cold up there.
But I was gonna say, basically, long and the short of it, especially when it comes to like the steampunk aesthetic, what you guys are working on at SkullHare, it's one of those like, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I'm getting is you felt like there was probably like an untapped potential when it comes to what could be presented when it comes to steampunk.
Oh yeah,
like like people have that mentality, and it seems to be like an old dated mentality, when you guys are hoping to more dig into that reservoir and find a cool new way to present it to people and like have them fall in love with it as much as you guys love it.
Do you want to know how many people have actually told me, oh, how are you going to fund this? It seems really expensive. And I'm like, really? Really? You're making a cyberpunk thing, really?
Like it's really funny because you just have stuff like this. It's that sounds really, because yeah, steampunk stuff kind of tends to be very elaborate, very ornate, and like, but I'd be hard pressed to find any cyberpunk stuff that isn't as overwrought. A lot of the time, like, you know, you have to have like people with funny markings or glowing stuff or like complex robotics and stuff like that. Like, I kind of burned out on cyberpunk more than a bit for other reasons, but like cyberpunk is the cool thing now. It's like you're seeing more of that like style, like in general, and steampunk is something that we want to like introduce in. Steampunk is something that we want to introduce and show that there are different ways to do it, and there should be different ways to do it. Like, there are so many different settings that you can do in steampunk, it boggles the mind. It's just a time period. It's just a time period.
Speaking of that, Wild Westerns, Wild West, like Weird Western, is also steampunk too.
Oh wow, Wild West, yeah, I know you have.
It is literally just a different subsect of it because it's set in the U.S. instead of like London, England, that type of area.
It's like Wild West is, and like, but that's also kind of the thing too. It's a Euro or Anglo-centric stuff, right? That we get into, like, especially because they're Taiwanese, and to see like this sort of like, obviously to see stuff that's like kind of dominated by the Anglosphere and introducing distinctly East Asian like characters into like a steampunk setting without like, because you know, like when people get into that stuff, it's like when you introduce East Asian stuff, it's all like wrapped up in that fucking like British like colonial culture, and it's like.
I hear the gong sound effect at this point. Anyways, but yeah, with modern media, it's even that too. But like, honestly, like, to kind of go on like how little of the steampunk media there is. Honestly, one of the most steampunk kind of films that I can even say that is like, yeah, that's steampunk, is literally Wild Wild West, and that movie is not good, but it is steampunk, I guess. And I'm like, okay, if that's the line, I don't really know if we have any more to spare.
I mean, wasn't there a movie that Peter Jackson came out with like a few years back called like Mortal Engines or something like that? Wasn't that like vaguely steampunk?
We don't talk about we don't talk about
okay.
That one. We just don't.
But
Mortal Engines is steampunk.
But like,
Mortal Engines is not good, bro.
Okay, you know what?
It's kind of more diesel punk too, I think. But
I'll say
Steam Boy.
I was gonna say, like, either way, it's one of those. Yeah, in media, there isn't really that much of a grandiose version when it comes to steampunk. So I'm glad to know that you guys are some of the ones that are leading the charge for, in quite possibly one of the most unique, creatively like stunning ways possible, and that is with the show that we've been more or less dancing around, Tallyho. Now, so I have to start by asking this. Shou, you're probably gonna be the one to answer this one, but how did the story of Tallyho come to you in the first place?
God, Okay, so originally it was just gonna be a 2-minute project of some sort that it was just me futzing around with like the idea of steampunk monster hunters because that's my favorite trope. I was like, heck yeah, I'll just make the thing that I really like to see. But the irony is one of the monster hunters is
A monster.
a vampire. So that's the plot twist. Anyways, because I was like kind of binging a lot of steampunk indie media. One of them is notably League of Steam, which I really, really like.
Okay.
Their prop design is fantastic. But as live action, I was like, maybe I can try to do this with animation instead because that's what I'm good at. I say, as I'm trying. Anyways, but then later on, I was like, because originally I was gonna do it as like a 2-month project and do it as a surprise to Jim.
Okay.
Some stuff happened that basically got me even more fired up for the project, and I eventually just consulted Jim because I was like, I actually don't feel comfortable writing his character without his consent just in case it's out of character or something. So I was like, okay, and then I just slapped him and I was like, hey, what's up? Do you want to do this project with me? And they're like, let me think about it. Then a few days later, they're like, Oogie. And they came on and we basically rewrote everything.
Okay.
Yeah, we there's the old drafts of the stuff and also the old character design drafts, which
it is vastly different.
Vastly different.
Very
Yeah,
vastly
kind of more
different.
reminiscent of that, like, that like standard steampunk stuff. There were more autumn colors, more other stuff. I've noticed we've been trending more to like. I've noticed we've been trending more in the opposite direction of like cooler colors.
Yeah.
Instead of like warmer colors.
Understandable.
It's the London atmosphere. It's not even in London. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
It's not in London.
It's in Diet London, you know.
Diet London. No.
I mean, that essentially. Now that you guys start bringing it up or whatnot, like looking at the city of Ringford or whatnot, Ringford City, and how like it's more or less set up, you know, with the upper class aristocrats being in certain areas and the lower class or whatnot, like this whole entire dichotomy and system or whatnot, finding, you know, the natural resources, which we'll definitely divulge in a little bit or whatnot. Like I could see it being just more or less like Little London at the end of the day, but like it makes sense like why you would want to create such a unique world, especially with how passionate you guys were talking about steampunk alone. Like how important was it for you guys to really deliver on such a unique sandbox of a world like Ringford City?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we just really like world building and stuff, especially like that's also a big other thing is remember how I said my brain is wired towards the niche? I studied a lot of different animated shows to recognize patterns. I don't know why my brain is just like this. And one of those things that I noticed is the ones that stick around for longer, or the ones that are typically more interesting for other people to get into, are like ones with strong world building. So stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Troll Hunters. Steven Universe actually had pretty decent world building too.
Yeah.
If you really thought about it. So like a lot of these stories had very, very like unique worlds that you could explore and feel yourself living in. So that's when that kind of got my brain thinking. That's also another reason why I brought on Jim, because I personally was really weak at world building.
Okay.
I'm more of a character person. Jim is a lot more of a world builder. This dude has built like I don't even know how many worlds at this point. Like, and they just put it somewhere, and I'm like, why are you like this? I'm going to forcibly drag it out of the abyss and make it happen because you just leave it there. Why would you leave it on the shelf like that?
I have my giant pantry full of ideas, and occasionally I will take stuff out and put it into stories. Oftentimes what I'll do is I just have a shitload of things that I've thought of, and I thought, this would be good for this. I'll just toss this in here, even though this was meant for something different. Or I'll just combine two ideas. Or I could turn an idea into two separate ideas. I have too many things to do. I will never get to finish everything that I want to do. So I just need to find out the things that I would like to do the most.
Which is why we actually, here's the funny thing. I said that Jim has like a lot of unfinished ideas with like really untapped potential. I literally made him drag out one of them and just connect it to Tallyho, and I was like, okay.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, no, it was like I had a lot of stuff where it was just like I'd use it for like pen and paper RPG stuff, or I'd use it for like
Yep, same.
I use it for pen and paper RPG stuff, or I just use it for like my old stuff that I wanted to make comics or stuff like that, and have no idea how. It was with that kind of like enthusiasm that like someone in elementary school or middle school says, where they have this wild, unbridled ambition and no fucking idea how to do anything with it. So it just kind of became like this wellspring of like I don't think I've ever gotten back to that point yet, because I've found things to occupy that creativity with, for better or worse. But like the what's it called? That whole thing basically like with Tallyho, like I got really into the world building because it was just always something that I found more interesting.
Okay.
Like, I love doing the characters. I like making stuff that feels natural, not necessarily realistic. Plausible, natural, that is always something I said, and that is the kind of language that every artist should avoid, is saying, like, is this realistic? No. Is it plausible? Does it make sense with the rules that you have made up? Like, you have to keep yourself honest. You have to go by your own rules. Like,
yeah, we literally actually have like a lot of rules for Tallyho. Specifically, even the character designs have rules to them, which we will go into that later. But the character designs have rules. The art style and the world building have rules. Like, there are rules that we do actually follow, and there are some times where I do have to say no to Jim's ideas, unfortunately, just to make things fit together better.
I mean,
there are some
yeah,
things he says no to
better.
me, and you know, that's basically what it is. You know,
Yeah.
It's a nice collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, the collaboration is kind of like, it's fundamental. Like, it's a part of the process now. Like, it's something that was kind of shown on like the press packet or whatever, but it was, like I've said, and I will always say this, it's like, nobody necessarily gets carte blanche. It has to go, like, there are some people who have, I guess, more influence than others in like certain departments, but nothing that we do gets any, like, could be considered finished unless it's had at least like a second perspective. Like, it's what we do with the character designs, with the environment designs, with everything. Like, you have to go by at least another person in order for you.
This gives us like fresh perspectives and stuff, because like we all bring something very different and unique to the table. So,
I mean, I can already tell that you guys are bringing a lot of unique stuff to this project, just based on the little taste of Tallyho we'd be able to get here and there and whatnot. I mean, I can tell you right now, like, you kind of illustrated this, but like, you know, with certain rules or whatnot, especially like the art style that you guys are implementing with Tallyho. I was going to emphasize this with the world as well, but like, you guys have picked a gorgeous style. I remember when you guys were doing your the pitch for the animation indie animation hub or whatnot. The one perspective, or the one was it the reference or whatnot, or the what's the word I'm looking for, resource, inspiration, that's the word I was looking for, Jesus. One inspiration, you kind of mentioned this earlier show, but 2003 Star Wars from Genndy Tartakovsky.
Yep.
That
yes,
you guys mentioned that, and that hit a chord, like a nostalgic chord, because that is a gorgeous world, that is gorgeous animation, and looking at the animation you guys are putting out there or whatnot, like I can really see that art style really being brought through more than anything else. Like, it is absolutely stunning what you guys are going to be pushing out there. It has me more than excited to see what you guys are going to be actually, presenting.
Yeah, I'm a very like traditionalist person in a way. Like, okay, I literally have an ink dip pen over there,
Yep.
and I do actually draw in ink dip sometimes and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do far more than just digital. So when people are like, I actually forgot that you can actually do anatomy and stuff, and I'm like, you do realize I'm not a one-trick pony, right? Like,
you've branched out to so many different like mixed
like I
media.
said, I do other things too, like craft.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
there's a mole skull and a coyote tooth in here.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. But yeah, no, I do actually do like a lot of different things. The dice box back there, this thing I made. It's a dice tower. But yeah, I basically just do a lot of things, and yep, it's a very nice little dice tower.
That is a nice little dice tower. I will give it credit for that. But I imagine, like, having the influence and all different stuff like that, like, especially bringing that into, like, what you're going to be doing with Tallyho with the animation style. Like, I can only imagine how stunning, how gorgeous, and how diverse both the atmosphere and the characters you guys are presenting. We didn't even really touch upon the characters that you guys are presenting with Tallyho. You guys have gotten quite the eclectic group so far when it comes to the amazing characters you have presented. I just want to at least illustrate the top two, at least right off the bat. Adam and Pearson. You guys have to tell me more about them. What you guys need to tell me more about them.
Well, we'll
rich
go with,
boy with fucking problems, and the traumatized gifted kid child that was like, I'm Jared, I'm 19, and I never learned how to fucking read.
Yes, a Vine reference.
Yes.
That is the best way I can describe it, because canonically, Adam can't read.
And they are 19.
They have like
18.
mild dyslexia.
We, as you can see, we both put our gifted kid experiences in the characters
Oh boy.
in some way or another. Pearson's definitely much more dramatized, and like I didn't experience a lot of the actual stuff that he did, but it's like a lot of that same vibe, the same emotions you get through that. It's, oh god, yeah, it's a lot about it's about expectations.
Okay.
Like, expectations is kind of like a through line throughout everything. Like, what someone is has the potential to be, what someone is supposed to be, what other people think someone is supposed to be, what you think you're supposed to be.
Ultimately, like, to boil that down, honestly, it's about what people think your fate is versus what the fate you can create is too. So,
yeah.
Expectations from other people. I have always been fascinated with that concept of fate and other things, which is why Terra is actually a really, really big theme in Tallyho.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not apparent yet.
Apparent yet, but you will figure out how later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. And I imagine, obviously a big influence of that is, obviously, like the guy says, this is essentially yourselves, maybe more dramatized, but more, basically a version of yourselves that you guys put in there in Tallyho, which, I mean, now that I hear that, it makes a lot more sense, Shou, why you're the one that's going to be voicing Adam. Because I saw that initially, I'm like, man, bold of the creator to be the voice actor. But now that I see it's essentially you anyway, it makes sense.
I mean,
even in costume. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, that is true.
But yeah, no, like, the point with Adam specifically is that I wanted to show younger creators that it is okay to write self-inserts as long as you can write them properly and not as like this god powered, like, even that is fine. I don't really care. Do what you want. It's your story, right?
Yeah.
But it is possible to write a good self-insert, and that's my point with them specifically, because there is so much like bad rep specifically on self-inserts and stuff, when ultimately honestly, all like OCs and all franchises and stuff are some sort of self-insert.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
It just
projecting,
depends how much of yourself that you put into them. And for
Yeah,
me,
you're
I was
just
like, you know what?
projecting some part of yourself or another.
Yeah. That is
Like,
it's true.
you can make it more or less obvious, but like it's, like for some people, it's like people want to make the idealized version of themselves that does all the things that they can. Or there's one, I think in their case, I want to make one that was truer to the kind of person that they actually are and that they actually want to be.
Oh, yeah. For me, it's more like, oh no. Me basically reflecting the type of, like, the way I feel like my emotions feel like to other people and stuff, because the whole thing is that the monsterkin, or the people who have monster forms and stuff in Tallyho, is basically a reflection of their inner turmoil and trauma and what they're thinking reflected on the outside, and that's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's fair. I mean, especially with once again with how unique of a world you guys are presenting more than anything else, seeing like kind of that stuff really be on full blast and like really having that be a major defining thing for this series and the characters involved. I mean, such unique characters that we've already illustrated with just Adam and Pearson alone. I mean, the main, I guess, I don't know if it's the main antagonist, but what seemed to be an antagonist, Salem alone, like that guy, just I am intrigued to know their motive more than anything else.
It was really funny because I remember specifically the design note that I would bandy around with them was because Adam being a vampire, right? Adam the vampire is dressed kind of like a normal steampunk dude, like a protagonist, and Salem, who is pretty much just a normal dude, dresses like a vampire.
Yeah,
that's the hilarious thing. And like honestly, everyone speculates that he's a vampire or something, and no, he's just a normal middle-aged dude.
He's just very
he's just a dude.
He's just very flamboyant.
By the way, very fun fact to every listener on this podcast. Salem's design actually mirrors Pearson's. So that reflects their roles in the story, and if you kind of look into a lot of the little details I have hidden in the backgrounds and stuff, you will find out a lot more about the story than there is on the surface, because that's just the type of person I am. I don't flaunt myself very often. I just do the thing. And
there you go.
Whatever you get, you get. So with Salem and Pearson, even their the pin labels are on the opposite side.
Okay.
Well,
so
my god, the lapels.
So
right?
yeah, like with Pearson specifically, he wears a heart-shaped clover pin right over his left side, which is over his heart, and it's kind of representative in a way of how he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's a very compassionate person. Sometimes a little bit to his own detriment, because his entire family is not compassionate at all. They're wealthy billionaires, so eat the rich. Anyways, there's a reason why he's disowned.
Yeah, he like. Are we gonna like talk about their like some background stuff, or would that be like?
Yeah, why not? I mean, we already gotten into it. Why not, man?
So
ultimately, if the story's good, the story's good.
Yep.
So Adam has what was it? Like there's only so much of like thing, but like Adam is what was it? Adam's kind of like got their own shtick where they kind of had to be. They were the street kid. They kind of like got kicked out and had to become with all like the vampire powers and shapeshifting stuff like that. Like
honestly, no, it's not even that. Like okay, so you can talk about Pearson, I'll talk about Adam, but
no, yeah, I thought we were gonna do that. Sorry.
Yeah, Adam basically ran away from home and was basically they were put under so much pressure that they ran away, and they were like, I can't do this anymore. And basically tried to taste what freedom was like for a while, and they enjoyed it, but they became very distrustful of people in general. And Pearson was the only person that ever extended any sort of kindness to them, so they kind of grew attached to him and eventually ended up sticking with him. But in terms of their personality and what they are and who they are very intelligent, and they're really good at reading between the lines and seeing very like small things. Like they have such a different perspective on things that oftentimes like they'll see things that other people won't notice, or they'll connect patterns where other people do not see it, because it is actually heavily implied that they're both autistic and extremely ADHD, like most of the other cast. But emotionally, they're a bit dense. They can't read social cues well. They can pick up some subtle things, but a lot of different social cues they can't pick up. They're a bit crude, blunt, crass. They don't really see the point in being so like putting on a face, masking presentation, I guess. So they're just like, okay, if somebody doesn't want to deal with being told the truth, then they can go suck it. Essentially, they're very, very that kind of person. But they also, if you take the time to know them, even though like they seem on the outside like a brute, if you take the time to know them, you realize they're not the type of person that flaunts themselves, reflective of me, and they're very much, they have a wide variety of interests. They're really, really smart, and if you stare at the way they plan blueprints, schematics, and other things, they're a tinkerer. They actually really like making things, and they can create some of the most unique and interesting inventions out there that you wouldn't expect somebody their age to create. But since it's not really in line of what they were supposed to be, because they were basically being groomed into a leadership position and stuff, so they were studied a lot with that. So you can probably get a hint of who their family is, what their family is like. So they do actually come from a rather influential family. If you look at how these characters are designed, you will figure it out very quickly. But Adam doesn't say shit about their family or anything. It's why they actually changed their last name.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Now, how about Pearson? I'm interested to hear more about them.
Yo.
Okay. Pearson was a character that, like, kind of... He was, like, his original creation was notably less heroic than what it is now.
Okay.
This kind of guy would not have been the kind of guy he was originally. Pearson originally was, like, for one, not in this time period. He was kind of conceived as somebody who was just fucking corporate America swine. This guy who lied as easily as he breathed, kind of guy. And that element of his silver-tonguedness kind of gave way to this more interesting dynamic of him knowing that the environment that he grew up in, the people he grew up in, have this inherent air of dishonesty, of deception. Like his family, they all have the mask. They have the family mask. Like Adam has the whole thing. It's like, I don't want to put up an appearance or a mask. His whole family knows how to like make that kind of put on a smile and put on like a presentation for the public or for the people you're trying to be your peers with. Like he's very he got very disillusioned at the idea that like that they are not only that they're liars, that they don't care about people under them, that they don't all this other stuff. He, in the kind of the bluntest of terms, he grew in like exorbitant amounts of wealth, and he accidentally developed a soul.
Okay.
Like, that is the best way that I can describe it.
That was also helped by somebody else in the cast. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. He kind of like learned a sense of perspective, of empathy, of all that other stuff, and that just kind of ate away at him for a while.
Okay.
But he still has all those skills, he still knows how to pull one over on someone. It's kind of this whole dynamic of he wants to be a good guy, he wants to help out the common man, but he's also really, really good at being a wolf in sheep's clothing because he learned how to pick that up. It was the kind of stuff he learned how to do. And he also knows all this other like fancy high society shit. He probably knows how to play like a harpsichord or some other boozy shit like that, you know? Like,
he knows how to play piano, right?
Not a piano, a harpsichord.
Because Adam knows how to play piano, but don't ever ask them to because they will absolutely smash one on sight because
they want you to play for fun, right? Yeah, like for him it was like it's that kind of like trope of like, you know, he's the con man, but he's got like that heart of gold underneath, like that he has the people that he opens up to that he's genuine with, but otherwise he will continue to fake it until he makes it.
Yep.
And because faking it is the best skill that he has.
He also is really woefully unprepared to be a dad, so he's just really awkward with Adam, and he's very glad that Adam is like 19.
He's very glad that he's having to deal with like a teenager like someone who is technically already an adult.
Yeah.
Like, it's easier to deal with a young adult than have to go through all the other stuff of developing a child, because it's also another thing like, oh god.
Yeah, and also the very interesting dynamic between the two is because Pearson is much more controlled with his emotions. Mm-hmm. Adam is not.
Right.
Adam is very volatile, and they have a really, really terrible temper because obviously when you have PTSD and other things like that, it does bring a lot of irritability and nastiness to the table that people don't talk about. Same with depression.
Right.
People seem to just glance over them and be like, oh yeah, you're just sad.
Yeah, no, it
can make you like really irritable and just.
Oh yeah. And Pearson basically can read them like a book sometimes, and Adam is a really terrible liar, obviously. So they're like, "I didn't break that vase. You broke that vase, didn't you?" Maybe.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, they can't hide, they can't disguise themselves in anything other than like physical sense.
Right.
They can't disguise like how they emote, how they talk, and other stuff like that. And Pearson is the complete opposite. He is a top of the top bullshitter. That is his best quality, or his worst, depending on how you look at it.
It's actually really hilarious because Pearson is kind of. Honestly, like, it's really funny because Pearson is the straight man of the group. He's not even straight. And, like, if you put him near other chaotic characters, he will become chaotic because, like, holy crap. Arthur is his best friend, and Arthur absolutely brings out the goblin in him.
I was gonna say, like, with the side characters, look, I'm gonna be 100% honest. Arthur has my heart, straight up. Like, seeing
everyone does.
Seeing their design, seeing the chaos that they bring to whatever situation it is. Arthur's the one that I'm like, give me more, please. I need more.
Do you know how many times I've drawn them? They have their own side character blog. Literally, I'm not even joking. No, because, like, Arthur, here's the thing. I wasn't originally going to bring them into the story, but I did because, honestly, Pearson's a little bit incomplete without them. Mm-hmm. At least in context-wise. But Arthur and Meryl, their family is called the Wilts because it's actually based off of Arthurian lore. So Murden Wilt is the bard that inspired Merlin, which is why Meryl's name is like that. Mm-hmm. They also do have a third sister, Morgana. And she isn't really around, but because she lives elsewhere, but she is twin sisters with Meryl.
Okay.
Totally opposite personalities, those two. But Arthur is definitely a very fiery person, very, very anxious, very paranoid. The most mad scientist kind of vibe you can get, except they actually have a moral code and they're very deeply traumatized, but don't ask them about it because they'll never tell you.
Fair enough.
Also, just they get very clingy towards Pearson too. Like it's really funny.
Any of this other stuff of like, oh god.
Yeah, Arthur basically has never really had any friends besides Pearson, and even then they really didn't like him at first, and they thought he was just some uppity, snobbish prick until they got to know each other a little bit better, and they were actually the one that taught him humbleness, compassion, and let him see the other side of things, which is just like basically the world of like the lower Ringford and stuff, and what kind of conditions these people are living in and what kind of circumstances these people are living in. Because a lot of people, especially if you're middle class or high class, you are taught that people control their circumstances, and that if you are poor or homeless or whatever, that is absolutely your fault, when that is not true at all, because it depends on a litany of things. Like, one, for example, jobs that are like, hey, we'll hire anybody. By the way, we require 7 years of experience. And I'm like, I don't have that. Can I get a job, please? And it's just like, there's that. You also have like people who are just homeless because they've been evicted or something like that. There are just things in our lives we cannot control. And that is what Arthur kind of taught Pearson, because even though they act very push away, like they're very like cagey as a person and very jaded, they actually have a really, really big empathetic heart. They just kind of don't know who to trust anymore. So they come in later in the story, though. They actually don't come like immediately because it's a big thing.
Okay.
Pearson's pretty mad at them. I'll just say that.
I mean,
because they disappeared for 7 years and they came back, and it's just like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, hi.
It's like, hey, what's up? Yeah, so how's it going?
Pearson, I thought you fucking died. Where did you go for 7 years?
My death was greatly exaggerated.
And they're just very much like, my lawyer says I can't tell you anything.
You don't have a lawyer.
That's not the point.
You don't
Their sister is literally... You don't need a lawyer when your sister is the captain of the guard, so...
Because you need a lawyer. But could you... It's like, but could you be my defense?
It's like, I was like, you don't have a lawyer. Oh, yeah? Tell that to my lawyer. Hey, how are you?
The hilarious thing is we actually do have a court episode written.
Oh, Jesus, yes.
Yeah, we do have a court episode. I really think we can like play off of, because for stuff like that, I'm not gonna like spoil too much about it. Also because it's all in development. What we say here would be subject to change regardless.
Right.
I also it's like I love world building, I love the minutia, I love all the other stuff, but you know what I love also sometimes even more?
What?
Just doing things that are funny.
Yep.
Like,
let's go for it.
Yeah, we're very funny people, if you've noticed.
Like,
we're absolutely...
It's just like, where it's just like you introduce like visual gags and stuff like that. It's just like ranging in stuff from more academic to stuff that would just be incredibly silly.
Right.
And like, I love visual gags. I love stuff like that. I love incorporating that. That is the kind of stuff where it's like I will like sneak jokes into things.
I have saved images of various screaming faces I have drawn. You have seen it in the pitch, but also it is my Discord banner right now.
There you go.
It is. No, but like I want to provide one example, which was the one that like Shou and I collaborated on, which was
oh god, which one?
For the pitch packet. Like one, Salem is literally soapboxing. He's standing on a soapbox, right? He's standing on a crate of soap, and then it's like the other thing. It's like, what should we name it? It's just, what the fuck do you mean? It doesn't need a brand. It's just a box itself. Like, no, this will be funny. Trust me. So it's like we're gonna name it Castle Castile. So it's just castle and then a synonym for soap. Castle Castile. And that was.
Yeah, we also like background gags and stuff like that too. So
I was gonna say
sometimes we just hide things.
I would say the way you guys are kind of describing like the humor and like the storytelling of the show, it reminds me of like Amphibia, for example. Like it's one of those like, does it have like that deeply invested lore in it that's like, you know, several different aspects of world building and whatnot? Absolutely. But then they also had an episode to where like they did silly Halloween gags to where one of the gags was like the mushroom taking over the frog, and it's like no, talk to the mushroom, not to the frog. I know it's confusing. I know. Like,
yeah, we're very much like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I'm at this stage of chaos where like I could very easily just write in the background, I hate drawing backgrounds, and just nobody would bat an eye because everyone's looking at everything else. But once you rewatch it, you see that, and you're like,
yeah, no.
I'm like,
if we get the opportunity to, you just be like, you would just have like a bunch of like, here, let's put the names on like the spines of these books on the bookshelf. Let's put this in cursive so not a lot of people want to read it. Let's see, etc. Lorem ipsum.
There you go.
I was too lazy to come up with another book title, so here, this is a giant paragraph of all the different books on the.
Just literally one just says book.
Book 1, Book 2, Electric Boogaloo.
There you go.
Book 3, Awakenings.
Windings, a complete comprehensive book.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also specifically really like the humor from Troll Hunters, which is something I reference a lot, which is by Guillermo del Toro. And in that, they have like a book called The Brief Recapitulation of Troll Lore. And like they have an actual book of that, and I have it. And if you look at the word recapitulation, like if you just chop it down, you just realize it's recap.
Yep.
It's recap.
Oh, the actual like it's the word recap is it's like a brief recap. No, the actual full word is much more sterile and academic. It's a recapitulation. And
Right.
Yep. A brief recapitulation of Troll Lore, Volume 42.
A summarily abbreviated recapitulation.
Good lord.
Jesus.
But,
I mean, like, it's incredible what you guys are going to be presenting and stuff like that. Like I said, you know, all these characters and whatnot. Thank you for bringing up that pitch document, pitch packet or whatnot. I think there was like a glitch. I think there's like a glitch or something with it, because there was one character in there that was like being mentioned, but all it was like a flashing image or something like that, and this weird text that went along with it. Are you guys aware of this stuff?
I don't know. I don't really know what you know.
I was like, I can recite the thing here. Maybe it might ring a bell or something like that. Witness her. She will grace us all. Elevate us from our squalor. Welcome the night. She will welcome you. Beware the non-believer. So Ethereum, that is something I also wanted to just briefly touch upon real quickly, like having that kind of, because the thing that intrigued me is like I'm looking at this and the way you guys described it, it looks absolutely unique and looks like amazing, like that being like the main power source more than anything else. But the way you guys also described it beforehand of it being like the fantastical mundane or whatnot, that leads me to kind of ask, how would you guys describe Ethereum for those that are just thinking I'm talking about like, I don't know, crypto or some bullshit like that?
Okay.
That's actually really funny because Ethereum with an E is actually a type of cryptocurrency.
That's the joke. Keep going.
Anyways, if you can't tell, I'm incredibly jokes. Anyways, there's a reason why Adam is based off of me. Anyways, Ethereum is actually based off of a real thing.
Okay.
specifically, a lot of stuff in Tallyho is not just if you've realized by now, it is based off of real world magic and that kind of stuff. So alchemy. If you look into ancient alchemical texts and stuff like that, like specifically from the medieval ages and stuff, you would realize that there used to be 5 elements, water, fire, whatever, and then like the stages of matter, gas, liquid, solid, plasma. But then there was a 5th one known as aether, or also known as God's breath, because it was supposedly like quintessence aether, aetherium was like this energy and space travel, and then that was discovered to be false and it's whatever. So we were like, hey, what if we just make something that's out of this world that is befitting of the name God's breath? And also it doesn't match any state of matter that we know of, so that's why
it's to make it kind of weird and alien. It was like, it's a rock that grows like a plant.
Oh, okay.
It is a mineral that grows like a plant. It is the most concise way to describe it. It is a gemstone that is a weed.
It's also an invasive species.
Okay.
No, yeah, that's what I mean by weed. Like, it is designed to burrow into like mineral formations and just spread. It's a weed. It's something that doesn't really work because it's something that doesn't really work with like earth physiology and stuff like that. Because you're like, how does a rock become a plant in another rock? How does all this other stuff happen? And these are like, and this is sort of the alien aspect of it. How does a rock do all this? And that's kind of the transformative like nature of it.
We literally also have like stuff written down about it, about how it reproduces using spores, and that it emits a very toxic gas bubble thing. So like if you look closely at the image of aether, there's like little bubbles coming off of it. Don't eat them. Don't touch them. They're very poisonous. Don't do that.
Don't eat the rocks.
What was it?
Adam, in the meanwhile.
Don't eat the rocks. Don't eat the rocks. Don't huff the gas, or you are going to see your entire life, including the point at which you die.
Oh, but I like the gas.
Yeah, no, I mean, you want cool mutations and irreversible trauma? Go ahead. But also, do you want to die? Do you want to see God?
I've embraced death at this point.
Okay, then, you won't die.
Make you ideal for that.
Yeah, aether is such a weird little like alien rock thing that it, 1, came from space, 2, because it's an invasive species and all that, and it reproduces using spores and whatever weird thing that just depending on the growth climate too, like the pH of like the soil and stuff like that, the air humidity, temperature and stuff, it actually can grow into different colors, and those different colors have different properties. And even furthermore, you can melt it down like a liquid. You can also crush it up into a fine powder. You can also refine it, and the energies will become different, because this is actually based on how crystals and witchcraft work, because I am a witch. So
gotcha.
There's your fun fact.
There you go.
Yeah, I got kind of like, because when we talked about magic and witchcraft and stuff like that, we got kind of like, I got obsessed with the idea of alchemical symbology and alchemy and stuff like that. And you were going to see at least some of that in there, like alchemical symbology and methodology and stuff like you might have like orreries referencing the 7 classical planets or some other stuff like that, and like texts and the symbols like how like Mars and Venus are actually supposed to represent Mars and Venus, not male and female. That is always the fact that I love telling people. Male and female means Mars and Venus. But anyway, it was so like we got kind of like really into the sauce for that, just really like I don't want to say it's the kind of thing where it's like we found all these cool ideas and just put them in a blender.
No,
because there is a sense of cohesion there.
Yeah, no, like I actually study and practice witchcraft and stuff like that. I literally have a piece of selenite with me and a deck of tarot cards, and also there's an altar down there that I'm not gonna show. But yeah, I'm so basically even there are actually symbols and stuff that I created, like sigils and whatnot, using how like witches create certain sigils for like empowerment and stuff like that, because I actually also do that.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's a lot of like different things that I brought from witchcraft practices and stuff like that into the world, and also like just interesting things that I'm like, okay. So like with alchemy and stuff specifically, the concept of the philosopher's stone, for example. Aetherium takes the place of that, and instead aether that is red is the philosopher's stone.
Okay. I got you.
So stuff like that.
I mean, either way, like just thinking about how much is you guys have invested in Tallyho just as a whole, like whether it be something as subtle as like background details or like the power source of this thing, to obviously the most vital parts of like the world and these characters and whatnot. Like you guys have really cultivated like a truly unique world that if people have not heard about it before today, like they truly need to know. So I have to ask you guys, like, you know, since you guys are developing this, how far do you guys want to go with this project?
So we wanted to at least get like the 1 season, if not the 2 seasons, and that's for the actual like run production for like 2 seasons of this. Hopefully, one would be more
3-ish.
Maybe 3. Maybe 3, shoot for 1 at the very least, right?
Yeah, right now, basically the main plan is that we just want to get this proof of concept out there and then look into different funding options, not just crowdfunding and stuff, because I am actually looking into a litany of different funding options,
right,
including grants, including grants that are specific to my school and whatnot like that. So there's a lot of things I'm doing, like researching, doing market research and whatever. Getting the word out however I can, but also like ultimately the goal is to go all the way with this kind of production and hopefully make it into a reality and run the whole season, which the season right now, as it stands, it is 23 episodes.
Good.
And the reason why for that, the reason for that number is very specific.
Okay.
Because each one is representative of a tarot card.
Okay.
Fair enough. They are according to the numbers, except for the last 2, which are both according to the world.
Okay.
So that's the finale. And basically, the way I have set this up as a plan is not to be like TV, like pipeline or something, but it's essentially, it starts off like very short episodes and gets longer and longer, similar to how like Spindle Horse has been kind of doing like Hello Boss, which is really interesting. But definitely not as polished and clean because we have like just a much more gritty style, and that's just part of the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Because I also want to save money, but also the other thing is also that I want to do mixed media in the future too for some of the more other weird stuff that goes on, but it's for mostly story and pacing reasons. Because I did originally try to do 13 episodes or whatever, but my problem is I have a thing where I need to have a very clear theme. Otherwise, I kind of just go, you know, so like I can't think of any ideas unless I have a theme. A good example for that is for a while I wasn't really able to write Arthur's main story, which Arthur does come from another story called Arthur the Timeless Knight. But that's my like hobby project essentially. Okay. And with Arthur's story that I have been working on for years, I actually started Tallyho first because Arthur's story, I was like, you know what? I think I need more practice before I go on to that one.
Okay.
But with that, I couldn't figure out a good structure until I literally looked at an Oingo Boingo album and was like, I'm just gonna take the song titles. Let's go. And,
real quickly, I was gonna say, believe it or not, this is not the first time Oingo Boingo has been brought up on the podcast. Continue.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
you know what?
I had what was it? Moreno. Basically the Sick Mutt. If you know that collective or whatnot. I'm trying to think. What they're called on Twitter or whatnot. Basically, if I showed you their art, you might recognize it. But like, yeah, I had them on, and they're big with Oingo Boingo. So that.
Same man as I was before. Anyways, like, yeah, no, so that's kind of just a thing generally with me is I really, really like to go very full in with theming, motifs, storytelling that have like very core and central themes. Like one of my favorite tropes in media is the idea of a mirror antagonist or a mirror like essentially mirror antagonists. What those are is that like they are reflective of what the protagonists go through and stuff like that, but essentially what they could have became if they let their flaws overtake them, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I really like those kind of stories. Gray morality, other things. So yep.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how you guys implement that when it comes to this series in Tallyho or whatnot. So, I mean, I also have to ask this. I mean, you know, you guys said you're trying to push out the proof of concept at this point. How far along are you guys with that?
It is.
You really want me to answer that? Okay.
No.
Here's the thing. I'm in college.
No,
I'm dying.
I get that.
It is still in the storyboard stages, but if you want to know production schedule stuff, I am planning to finish the boards by February, like the end of February.
Okay.
And then start actually moving on to the animation and stuff like that, because it is about 4 minutes. It's fairly short because I wanted to keep it that way.
Right.
But I'm planning to hopefully release it by the next International Steampunk Day, which is like not this year, but next year, like 2024, which is June 14th, which ironically is 2 days after my birthday. So it would be my birthday gift to myself.
And to the community, right?
Hell yeah. But
it would, like, so I'm also between places. Like, you know, we have our reasons for that. It's been going slow, but it has been going. We have been working on it. We are just sort of chipping away at the different aspects of it.
Yeah, I'm also pulling some extra money that I have out of my pocket to try and like essentially get certain things funded or like whatever. So it is kind of a semi-paid production. That's because some of my friends are like, do not pay me, because if you pay me, I will grab you and I will send the money back. Do not pay me. And I was like, okay, fine. I just want to pay my friends.
Well, yeah,
I'm starting to move towards a paid production.
Well, I was gonna say, well, let me reiterate this, because obviously, you know, you probably can, you know, one of the things you were talking about is seeing kind of, you know, the BS that's going on when it comes to the animation world as a whole, especially with like Netflix canceling stuff or whatnot. I think you could probably attest to this, that seeing people trying to really crunch and try to push something out when it's not ready or whatnot doesn't really lead to the best results one way or another. So, so believe me when I say that, please take your time. I know that what you guys are producing is going to be absolutely insane and incredible. And I want you guys to make sure that you guys are happy and satisfied with the project, because if you guys are happy and satisfied with it, we as the fans, we are going to be ecstatic about it. Believe me.
I think for me, what would be, it's not only something that we'd be happy with, but also if it's something that we like, that the fans like, and that they can take it and run with it, and that someone is actually like so enraptured in it that they can like just take it and go run away with it and make something just cool. That would be ideal for me.
But yeah, essentially for me, like ultimately what it is like I will humanize myself a little bit here and say that I will admit that I do feel left behind at times when it comes to the speed of social media, and seeing a lot of my other fellow indie creators or friends that have basically gotten a lot more content out than I ever have. I have to remind myself that they have had their stuff in production for a very, very long time.
Right.
And they have put a lot of effort that they are putting that out there, and social media is smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors, you know, like, so it's very much like I get kind of insecure about it, but then I just tell myself that I can go at my own pace. Ultimately, we are at the start of our journey,
Right.
and we're peering into somebody else who is in the middle of theirs, you know? So, like, it's obviously like we're always going to feel bad about that, but ultimately, I try not to get too involved with social media so I can basically not feel that anxiety of I need to put something out there for the algorithm and stuff like that, and just kind of focus on my own thing. And when I'm ready, I can just start posting more things and start showing off more things, and just you know, rush product never turns out good. I was on productions that rush their product. No bueno.
Yeah, no bueno. No bueno. So,
No bueno. No.
Once again, believe me when I say, like, whenever the time is right and you're ready to push out that stuff, we will collectively be eating that stuff up. Because I know
Heck yeah.
based on our conversation alone that we've had today or whatnot, oh, I know you got something incredible. You got something amazing ready to go.
Thank you.
But for this next question, if I may, I want to go a little bit above and beyond, if I can, and give you both more or less the dream scenario. Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I get to come up to you guys. I'm like, look, Show, Jim, we know you guys can produce something incredible. We've seen the little teases here and there. We know that there's something just like waiting to be unearthed more than anything else. You just need a little extra push, a little extra, maybe a better foundation for what could be going next. We have access to anyone and everyone in whatever industry possible, and more money than it should be possible. We could probably be helping so many homeless people not be homeless, but we'll focus on that later. Right now, we are focusing on you guys and you guys alone. If given this opportunity, what would be the dream SkullHare Studios project?
It's unionized.
That's a good start. That's a great start.
Yes, it's union. Everybody gets their share. Maybe royalties. No. It's
unionized. I can basically pay fellow artisans and stuff for unique merchandise, because that was always the plan, is to have merchandise that is from the steampunk community and curated by them.
Mm-hmm.
The project can be as polished and come out quicker on a more consistent production schedule. The studio will be actually funded and in a real location, because the reason why I'm also pushing for this is so I can have a actual studio space.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I get that.
Yeah. Like, if it just comes down to just the project and stuff, like, having that amount of money could genuinely jumpstart something really, really fast and quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, I have been like literally working on a 2-year projection plan for the fucking studio. I'm not even joking about that. Like, I am, because again, there's actually like some entrepreneurship opportunities and grants that I am looking into, and a lot of those require papers, and I don't have those right now, and I'm working on them right now. So, like, don't.
You got this. You got this, Show. You got this.
Thank you.
Jim, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. So, what our ideal production would be would not only be union, but it would also be like, I'm not gonna say I'd get like all. I'm not gonna say I'd like get all the all the big names or whatever on it. I just want to have the people that we know that we can get on it, that we can treat them well. And it might get to the point where, like, hey, maybe you knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. Like we have at least one dedicated VA who is an honest to God professional, and I love him to bits.
Very good.
Austin Lee Matthews, who is,
you love him half to death.
He's great.
He's the voice of Pearson, but also, fun fact, he also voices Arthur from Mystery Skulls Animated, which is really, really funny.
And
funny Scream Man.
Roche, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. It's... he's such a nice guy.
Very sweet. Very sweet. One of my closest friends now.
He really is. Like... And so, like, it's it'd be ideal to get like the people that we know and to treat them well and compensate them well to where like they could use the like the ideal scenario would be where they could do this as a job,
Right.
and not feel like they're drowning. Like
Yeah.
that would be the ideal circumstance in any case. Would be, and it's a very simple thing. We're taking care of ours on our own. This is just a bunch of friends and friends of friends that get together and do all this stuff. And like, we're not trying to have lofty goals. Like, yes, we want it to be well received, popular to some extent.
Right.
I don't know if mainstream would be necessarily the word for it, but like a good following and a good like way to keep up with it. But also, we want to be able to actually take care of our crew and have them enjoy it, and be able to actually do this and have like room to breathe, because obviously that gives room for more creativity. You know, like they say like limitations induce creativity and stuff like that, but
Yeah, limitations induce creativity more or less to a reasonable degree. Not like I am living out of a shithole apartment trying to make it big. Not like that. No, we don't ever want somebody to live like that. Please take care of yourself. Like crunch culture and like being bragging like I drink 3 Red Bulls to stay awake is not a pretty look. It's not as fancy as you think it is, man.
That's a big kidney stones. That's how
I literally had to stop one of my best buddies that from doing that because the man drank like so much Red Bull. I was like, dude, your kidneys.
You're having a kid.
I was gonna say, fuck the kidneys. His heart. Their heart. I'd be more concerned about that.
Yeah.
But I
know they're gonna be listening to this. I'm watching you, Finnegan. I'm watching you. I know they're listening to this eventually.
Eventually. No, but I do. Either way, like for a dream or whatnot, just having that space, having those people like compensated and unionized more than anything else, that's a good goal to aspire for. And I sincerely hope you guys get to that point. Sincerely.
And also, there is one more thing. Honestly, if I could get one person to do anything, I would like music specifically from the steampunk community, specifically either Steam Powered Giraffe, Cog is Dead, or Voltaire. I really want music from Voltaire.
Okay.
Oh god, yeah, you like just okay. Sam at least in some way or another has like Voltaire vibes.
I have been listening to Black Labyrinth on repeat for like 3 days. Help.
And also visual
It's so
design.
good.
He looks a lot like Voltaire too, I think.
That was accidental. That was genuinely accidental.
I think that's just the stylistic overlap, honestly.
Fair enough.
Classic.
As we start,
he is very. I just like making the dude who's very gothic, and it's like a man that wears weird stiletto heels and like a fur and like a stole that is also a fox that is alive.
Yeah, you are not taking credit for that. That was my idea.
I'm not saying whose idea it was. I just said it's a fun vibe.
Okay, but like the fur thing he wears, her name is Lucy. She does actually have a name. It's short for Lucifer because she is a little devil of a thing.
Fair enough.
It's a fox. What did you expect?
Yep.
Also, I made him wear heels because I was like, you know what? Toxic masculinity is dead. Let's give this boy feminine heels.
There you go. Oh, excuse me. As we wind down the interview, I just have one last question I want to ask you guys. Obviously, you've been deeply entrenched in art and animation for as long as you guys can, for ages, for years at this point. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
Boy, Jim, do you want to start on this one? Because I have a lot to say on it.
I think you start with that first, I think.
Are you sure? Are you really sure? Because I have a lot to say. Okay.
You go first, please.
Okay.
I think Jim needs to think about it.
Okay, well, it depends what you mean by that because art has a lot of different versatilities and value to the world, even though a lot of people don't see it and they're like, art is a luxury, it's not a necessity. Look around you. Just look around you. That cabinet was designed by somebody. This room was designed by somebody. And those were artists. And this mouse over here was designed by somebody. So is this microphone. That's all product design. That's art. That's technically art. The food that you eat, the food that you consume, that's also an art. It's a culinary art.
Mm-hmm.
The music we listen to, the productions we do, it's entertainment. And obviously, entertainment creates a lot of morale, spirits, that kind of thing. You know, games. A lot of it can also be used medically to help people who have neurodivergencies or motor control issues regain control. So, honestly, art has a lot of different means of just infiltrating our world, but we just don't see it. You know, like all those posters on the back of your wall over there. That's art too, but it makes us happy, you know, and without it, honestly, we'll be living in like kind of a drab place.
Yeah.
And art has existed for so long that it dates back to when we were cavemen. I mean, cave paintings on the wall and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, concepts of art have evolved throughout the years. We learned how to do perspective. We learned how to do this. We learned how to do that. You know, like patterns, design, aesthetics. It's all art. We are surrounded by art, but the only reason why we don't see it is because we're so used to seeing it around us that we believe it provides no actual value. Art is a luxury, but unfortunately, it has been tainted by elitism and Western colonization. I am not afraid to say that because it is very true. A lot of the concepts of what we consider pleasing to the eye or aesthetically like correct are often westernized concepts from Anglo-Saxon, European-centric countries. But I would like to also move away from that and try and bring in other beauty standards and other things that can be considered beautiful. Because again, I see beauty in everything, even the most drab of places. Like a lot of people say that Baltimore is a really shithole of a place. It kind of is, but honestly, I see beauty wherever I go because I love the people here, the locals. They're so nice and like I love talking to them and getting to learn more about the city and what I can do to help. I love looking at the architecture here that's really beautiful. It's just really sad that it's covered a lot of the time in graffiti or very run down because the historical sites aren't allowed to actually restore themselves unless they want to pay like 14K to do it, which nobody has that money, man. But yeah, so like art, it's everywhere. We just don't really, you know, value it, unfortunately. And we can blame a lot of people that are rich or famous for that. Thank you very much for not valuing art at all. Because it's seen more as a
frivolous, I guess.
Yeah, frivolous, or it's seen more as useless than what it is, which is a luxury, but also a necessity.
So I'm trying to go again. I'm trying to remember. So what were the specific wording of the question?
How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
Art for me is something that, I'll be honest, without any expressions of creativity, which is pretty broad to be considered art, I don't know what kind of person I'd be. I don't even think I'd be myself as I am without it. Like, that's not corny, that's not an exaggeration. I've defined so much of myself on my ideas, on what kind of imagination I've had, on like the kind of things that I like to imagine, the kind of like people like somebody who's creative to an extent, you know, like they say, oh, you just sound really creative. Like, but like, when somebody starts expressing creativity in ways that are like kind of weird and like outside of they're kind of like weird and outside of their norm, they're like, but that's not, but I don't like that. It's like, I don't like that kind of thing. It's like, it's worth understanding the context behind people's creativity and stuff like that, but also like for me personally, my I like to try and understand the context behind things, the context behind art, behind all this other stuff, because like death of the author or whatever stuff, like what someone is like, who someone is directly informs what they make, obviously, because they made it. And your brain, your whatever is personalized to you. Only you can interpret and understand things the way that you can. Because nobody's had the same combination of teaching, of lessons, of experiences, of things that have happened to you, things that you have learned, things that you've just happened to pick up, things that have happened to you by chance or that you've actively sought out. All of that is unique to you, because there is no single person that is exactly like another person. That doesn't happen. There is at least some variation. That, like, it's like, embrace your differences, embrace variation. But I don't know who I would be if I didn't have that kind. If I didn't think about shit like this. If I didn't I don't know what kind of person I'd be if I didn't think about all this wild and wacky and interesting stuff. I feel like I would still, to some extent, be me, but I wouldn't be the kind of person if I didn't define myself by being an artist, by being whatever, because it's like everything else just feels so like mundane, and like mundanity isn't really a bad thing. Art can still be a hobby. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to, your art doesn't have to make it. You can just enjoy the act of making art, and that's kind of a thing that I'm still trying to figure out with, it's like when with your parents and all these other people and stuff like that. It's like, wow, you're a really good artist. It's like, you can make, it's like, have you ever thought about, it's like, you can make this. Have you ever thought about going to this production house? It's like, you want to make money. It's like, artists don't make that much money. You don't it's this other stuff. It's like, I want to live comfortably.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't give a shit.
There you go.
I don't give a shit. Other than having some semblance of comfort and stuff like that, it's like the idea of making it big. It's like, you could do so much. You could be making so much money. I don't give a shit. You enjoy art for the sake of making art. And if none of that, and there is that part of me that's always going to think, I could have done this. I could have shared this to the world. But there's also a part of me that needs to recognize, and I think everyone needs to recognize, that you can just do art for its own sake. You can have all the stuff that you did in middle school and stuff like that you might look back and think is, God, that's fucking horrible. Why did I ever do any of that? But it's formative to you. Mm-hmm. You can enjoy doing it for its own sake. You can look back at yourself and think you were such an idiot when you were a kid. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But it's also stepping stones. Art expression. People should be allowed to express. People should be allowed to express, and that's part of the biggest caveats for me is what kind of, I have been and have done a lot of things that I would not consider myself remotely proud of, and stuff that, probably for some people they'd try to hide, they'd try to whatever, because they're afraid of what other people will think, that they'll think I'm a cancel this, whatever. But it's like, you take that shit on the chin, you move on, you do whatever, but you need to recognize or you need to recognize yourself, your experiences. I feel like I was going somewhere with this.
But yeah, art is important for self-expression and communication as well. Of course, we're all different and we don't want to feel alone, that kind of thing. Okay. You know what? I will go into this very briefly, but
yeah.
with art, also storytelling specifically. People think, oh, well, I see no point in stories and entertainment and all that, like TV, games, and this narrative stuff. No, they actually serve a very important purpose to pass down one of two things: a moral or a wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And that is basically what storytelling does. It is a way for the viewer to connect and like experience kind of like what these trials and tribulations that the protagonist goes through without actually having to basically be traumatized, literally. So, there's a lot of that. So it's basically like secondhand experiences and stuff like that.
Right.
Obviously can be really powerful to avoid mistakes that humanity has done in the now for the future and teach future generations how to be better, etc., whatever. Morals and wisdoms.
Yeah, like it's not necessarily that everything has to like have a lesson, but like you can distill a lot of it into that.
Everything does have a lesson ultimately in the end, because even something as surreal and weird as Alice in Wonderland technically does actually have a wisdom to it, which is always question everything. Curiosity is your best friend.
I think and this is another thing too, if we're talking about the fun part of the like expression of art and stuff like that. If you ask me what Alice in Wonderland is about, it's teaching a kid that the world doesn't make sense and that it's not going to in a lot of cases, and that's all right. You need to understand that. You need to embrace at least a little bit of chaos in your life. And this just like microcosm of an interaction, that is art. That is art, where you can go and say, like, one person can say, look at Alice in Wonderland. It's like I said, always question what people consider to be real. I say it's embrace chaos, embrace things, because if you try to make sense of the world, if you try to assign to everything an intent, an order, a whatever, like, shit just happens sometimes, and you won't know why, and sometimes you might never know why. Like,
yeah, I think also like a lot of I think a lot of people like to think that like oh, my brain just farted. Hello. Wow. I was gonna say something really profound and then I forgot.
Oh, no.
This is the duality of me, is I sometimes say something really, really smart and sometimes I say something really, really stupid.
Yeah, I just kind of rambled on for a bit until I ran out of steam at the end.
I mean, you ramble a lot, man. There's a reason why I'm like, buddy, help.
I mean, I was going to say, either way, with what you both presented for that last thing, you say ramble, I think is very introspective, very thoughtful, and it's wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
That is all the questions I have for you guys. I've already showered you with a bunch of praise, but I want to shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do what the fuck I want. Look, Shou, whenever you first messaged me about appearing on the podcast, once again, like I was grateful to see that interest, and really, like that message really exposed me to your work in the first place, and I was instantly intrigued with what you had presented, both the art that you've had and the concept with Tallyho and such. Like seeing the little bits of that, like right off the bat, I was hooked. Seeing your guys' pitch at that indie animation night, whatever hook you guys reeled in a little bit more, like reeled me in, like really intrigued a whole lot more with more of the world, the characters, the chaos that could be coming from this place. And having you both here today to describe more about Tallyho, describe more of the love and passion that is going into this project, the tender love and care that is going to every single detail of Tallyho. Whatever excitement I had previously had is through the roof. The rain is coming into my house because I'm excited sincerely thank you guys for really showing me like more of what you guys are doing, because this stuff sounds absolutely incredible, super unique, super like it could be potentially groundbreaking if you guys are able to do this right.
Good.
And I sincerely,
I hope so.
as someone that is now going to be one of the biggest cheerleaders for you guys. I sincerely hope you guys get the opportunities, all the incredible opportunities to really showcase to the world that Tallyho is something special that people need to be paying attention to. Long and the short of it, thank you guys for what you do. Keep up the awesome work. Keep pushing forward. Keep creating incredible stuff.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it means a lot to me to hear that because, again, what's funnier and the most ironic thing about this is I've always been an underdog. You probably got the vibe from how I speak. So I don't really tend to present myself very flashy or anything. It's actually really interesting because the entire story of Tallyho is about underdogs ultimately, and I have noticed that every single story I have written since, like Tuzi's story, for example, is also about underdogs, and I'm like, okay, oh, cool.
Well, you know what? People love a good underdog story. So if people want to know more about your underdog story and find a way to show love and support that I've been showing you guys, go ahead and plug y'all stuff for the people at home.
Hi, I will plug it again, but you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Twitch, or anything. I do have a link tree, which basically just links all of our socials, and please go check out the teaser and the preview we do have for Tallyho, and we also do have a merch front. God dang it! It was a siren. We also do have a merch front and stuff. If you do want to support the show financially and get some goodies and stuff, I have an I Crave Violence keychain that is very funny. I also obviously have Ko-fi and other means of donation if you want to stop by when I stream at SkullHare Studios. Obviously, you can just drop some money there too. In terms of like other social media and stuff, most of my stuff is listed under SkullHare Studios. If not, on Twitter, it is the SkullHare because Twitter is dumb.
Yeah.
Also, SkullHare Hub if you want to see updates on Tallyho specifically, and PP Pandect for my stuff with Tuzi and other things. It's more stream stuff because I am also a VTuber.
Yep.
I do a lot of weird things, which apparently this goober found out later, but I'm
sorry.
I think it was funny. You're good. But besides that, I also do have Tumblr and other things. If you want to send me an email, skullharestudios@gmail.com if you are willing to help be a benefactor or something. I don't know. Just it's out there now. Go harass me with fan art or something.
There you go. Jim, do you have any links you want to add, or do you think show got it all wrapped up?
I'm pretty I don't have many socials to share at the moment.
Fair enough.
Jim doesn't have any socials, dude. This is why I said I'm the spokesperson, because I literally am the one who has social media, and this goober over here is like, I don't use social media anymore. I only have Discord.
I don't really use much social media. DeviantArt was the closest thing I had to it, and not telling y'all my DeviantArt. Not like it matters, or I'm going to check it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I never got a Twitter. I never got anything like that because I just never got into it. And
honestly, you're probably better off, all things considered.
Dude, he literally said, like, he's literally told me, like, I would literally rather die than ever get a Twitter. You won't catch me alive with a Twitter account.
Okay. I said no. Let me clarify.
Oh my God.
If you catch me honestly using a Twitter for anything other than like a brand account or some other stuff, like, you can come to my house and you can admit me because I am clearly not well. I would rather die than actually like take Twitter seriously.
Fair enough.
When do you take Twitter seriously, bro? Like, whatever. But yeah, like, you know, I have social media, I guess.
If you missed any links, if you missed any links or whatnot, I'm sure to have them in the description below so that people can keep up with SkullHare and with Tallyho, because I know people should be excited about that.
I have a lot of links that I claim, mostly because I don't want other people to claim that it's me.
Understandable.
I might not use everything, but I do have a link tree for that reason.
There you go. There we go. Do you guys have any final words before we sign off?
Stay in school, don't do drugs.
Stay hydrated. Eat eat stuff eat food at sensible intervals.
Also, subscribe to Postmodern Art Podcast, or I will eat your bones.
If you
give this man your money, or I will come and eat your bones, or gather them into a nice pile.
Give him your subscription patronage, or else I don't know, I'll be kind of upset.
This man's like, I'm just a hedgehog. I'm harmless, and I'm sitting here like, do it now, or I shall become the eldritch horror that haunts your walls, and also your sleep paralysis demon. And I'm pretty sure you don't want me as your sleep paralysis demon.
Goodness. Thank you both for the kind words and for the additional plugs. So I plugged myself at the beginning of the podcast. I got myself covered there, but thank y'all for that. With that, all I have left to say is for the people at home, hasta luego, mi amigos. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening, I sincerely do appreciate it. If this is not your first time listening, you're coming back. Yeah, once again, sorry for dipping for a couple weeks. I've just been grinded to bits with works and stuff like that, but I'm glad to be back, and I was more than happy to bring you guys this fantastic interview with Shou and Jim. I remember Shou just randomly messaging me, like, wanted to be on the podcast at some point, and I knew it was only a matter of time, especially with some of the incredible stuff that I've been seeing from them with Tallyho and such. I think we can all agree, at least at this point, that independent animation, it's a wild fucking place right now. It's insane. It's chaotic and such. And I sincerely hope that you guys don't get the raw end of the deal, because it's still very much like the Wild West and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure anyone that's been on the internet in the independent animation part for more than 2 seconds has seen all the stuff that's been going down with Bold Bird. I don't want to say anything about it. I just want to say that for those that were involved with that, I sincerely hope the best for them. Because they didn't deserve that. They didn't deserve all that BS. And, it's stuff like that that has me obviously concerned for all the artists involved that want to create something like this. I sincerely hope that they don't get a raw deal. I sincerely hope that they get incredible opportunities to showcase just how incredible of an artist they can be. Whether they're creating it for themselves, or whether they're helping someone really bring that reality, that dream to reality. I know that with me and Tipsy, we're starting to really get that going. I mentioned it before, but we're doing what we can to make the evil little thing a reality. I'll go ahead and give you this little insider thing. The pilot episode is done. That stuff has been written, and we're growing a small group right now, and hopefully we can grow some more to where we can truly make this thing real. Because I genuinely do love and appreciate this property that Tipsy's brought forth, and I sincerely hope that we can make this a reality, if not for us, but for other people. I mean, mainly for Tipsy first and foremost. In fact, I know how much love and passion she has for this project. but also the incredible team that we've already have and the team that we will soon be having, really making this a reality and really doing incredible stuff for the independent animation space. That's all we can ask for. That's all we could want. And I sincerely hope that we get an opportunity to really showcase that. I know, talking with Shou and Jim, hearing how they're going forth with Tallyho and stuff like that, you know, and obviously seeing everything that's going on in the independent space, seeing so many incredible projects like really being brought forward. I mean, especially if you guys haven't seen it, I think they're called the Indie Animation Hub or something, or Animation Appreciation Hub, I think is what they're called or whatnot. But they had like an independent animation like pitch night. That's how I got to see a lot more when it came to Tallyho stuff, and like a lot of incredible projects on there. Some of which, you know, hey, if there's any of the creators out there, I'm probably going to be trying to get in touch with you. But there's like so many incredible projects out there. And there's so many incredible opportunities and possibilities for people to really showcase what they truly want, what to do. I just sincerely hope that everyone that does get an opportunity to work on something incredible like that, they are compensated well for it, and they have a great time at the end of the day. Because they're putting forth incredible stuff, and they do not need to be ripped off more than the industry has already been doing, you know? I mean, it just goes back to what I always want to tell you guys. At the end of the day, go forth and create something that you absolutely love and cherish. No matter what it takes, no matter how hard you have to work to get it, you guys deserve to have that incredible stuff out there. You guys deserve to have that love and passion on full blast. Go forth and make that passion a reality.